Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies that make us feel seen. And my guest today is one of those Swiss Army knife entertainers, a writer, an actor, a novelist, a playwright, more specifically. Perhaps you have read his debut novel, A Star is Bored, which is based on his experiences working as an assistant for Carrie Fisher. Maybe you hotly anticipate his latest book, Big Gay Wedding. Maybe you have been had the pleasure of seeing, which I have not and I wish I had, a play that he wrote and co-stars in called Tilda Swinton Answers an Old Craigslist Ad. You also, I believe you starred in, did you write the movie, was it Herpes Boy?
Yeah. I have moments where I regret the title, but I wrote and starred in this movie, Herpes Boy. It was about a kid who had a birthmark on his face by his mouth. And so people online made fun of him, and he accidentally became a viral sensation. And that was kind of my first Hollywood thing that I did out here. And it starred Beth Grant and
Octavia Spencer is also in that?
I know. It was a this was before both of them were on their way to stardom. And so they said yes to an indie movie, and I'm so lucky that they did. They're both so wonderful and talented.
What when you having done a bunch since then and looking back at that, you like, I got Octavia fucking Spencer?
It's
is
so
that
weird.
How did I do that?
It's so weird. It's so weird to look back, and I can say, so I've got this book coming out, Big Gay Wedding comes out on Tuesday. And everyone's like, are you excited? And I'm definitely excited. I'm ready for it to be out there. But because I've done all these other things, sometimes a big lesson I learned working for Carrie Fisher was that it won't make you happy. Like it's not the answer to happiless. So to be able to say like, she would say, I'm in Star Wars. That is not what makes me happy. I'm rich and famous, but that's not what. So like working with Octavia, it's not the thing that's going to make me happy, but all these things together add up to just like, I feel so lucky. I feel so grateful. And what cool experiences, Did you always want to write fiction books? Or was that something that came later? Because clearly you write, act, perform, the entertainment polymath. Right. When did fiction come into the conversation? I started out as a journalist. So I studied.
Same.
Oh, here we are. We are
15 years.
Soulmates. Oh, wow. Yeah, same. I started in 1999. I started in New Orleans at a TV station where Hoda Kotb got her start.
All right.
So I was with that caliber of journalist, and this station in New Orleans was the station everyone watched. So they would do these incredible stories where the main anchors like Hoda would go and spend the night in dangerous neighborhoods and record shootings and follow people who live there around. And so this was a station that in the late 90s really affected change. And I was so proud to be a part of that. At the time, I was just like an intern, and then I got promoted to a writer and a producer and all that stuff. But that's where I got my start. And then I was a news reporter in Vegas for a little while. And that's where I started to see this is kind of journalism. Something's happening.
Yeah.
And then when I got to LA, I was a writer there, and everyone who worked at the TV station at KCAL9 and CBS2 where I worked cared. These were people who really did care about putting out a great product, but the business was changing so fast, and it just became kind of depressing.
Yep.
The biggest thing that I think has helped going from journalism to film is journalism gave me a sense of what's authentic, especially in New Orleans, watching the news there where the characters who would be interviewed were so rich. And so there was a sense of what a great soundbite was. You cut out a lot of the waste. So no wasting time on dialogue that doesn't move things along. So in those ways, I feel like I was trained to tell a story. The challenging ways, every now and then I had this existential moment, and maybe you can relate to this too, where it's kind of at least when I was on the news, it felt important. And there are moments where I'm shooting a web series about my testicle, and I'm like, Am I making a difference? You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. But then when I remembered that it does, then it's really, really affirming.
Yes.
To be like, no, but like this just contributes in a different way. And the balance of both is what makes me so happy. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you. And it is, I'd remind myself the same thing. And sometimes people will say nice things about the work and that will make me feel good. And it is a reminder that art is so important. Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason we ended up here.
There's
a reason we moved from one to the other, where just because I never wanted to stop being a journalist. I never wanted to stop doing journalism. It wasn't that. I just knew that I had to go do this. And so I feel like as passionate as I was and remain about journalism and that part of my identity that like I identify as journalist in so many ways, to know that it was so important to me and yet still I had to leave it to make these other things is like, well, then that must have been pretty fucking important to me.
Well, you're a storyteller, and that is a human tradition. It goes back to the campfire and all that old good stuff. So it's in us, you know.
Well, and your character choice for today is another thing we have in common. This movie so rarely comes up and so often should. So please tell us who we are here to discuss on the pod today.
So we're here to discuss Sadie Ratliff, who is from the movie Big Business.
How can you not just love this place? Oh, God, Rose, I wish I knew. I feel like the real me is all cooped up inside, you know? And I want so many things. I want designer clothes. I want to see the world. I want a penthouse in the sky and a maid to pick up after me. I want to say things like, keep the change.
So it's Bette Midler, Lily Tomlin. They're switched at birth. The Lily Tomlin twins are supposed to be the country twins, and the Bette Midler twins are supposed to be the city twins. So Sadie Shelton is the New Yorker, and Sadie Ratliff is the country Bette Midler.
Yes.
And I relate to the city twin who was dumped in the country. That's it. And so you've got this character who has this deep feeling inside that she doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
She belongs in New York. She belongs amongst money and fame and helpers and all this stuff. And there's this little speech she gives at one point where she's like, I find myself so bored. I'm just praying for a UFO sighting.
God, sometimes I get so bored. I find myself just praying for a UFO sighting. I'd stand here and I'd say, come and get me. Come and get me.
And you know what? Young Byron, when I saw this movie in the 80s, I said to myself, that's me.
Yeah?
I don't belong here.
You're watching this and you're seeing country, you're seeing Jupiter Hollow, Sadie.
Yes.
And you're being like,
weeping.
Yes.
Weeping.
I need big business.
I need big business. Yes. Well, so I grew up north of New Orleans, so in a rural part of Louisiana. And I don't hear a country accent. I don't think I have a kind of a country Southern accent. And I sometimes joke that it's because I saw this movie Big Business and I was like, you know what? I knew from a young age I need to be out of here. I belong in the big city. And they would play this movie on over and over and on network, and they had commercials, and the version that I had was I recorded it off TV, so it was on VHS. And during the movie, there was a storm, so the meteorologist would cut in. So there were chunks of the movie that I didn't know for years.
Wow!
There were weather
man!
Reports. Yeah. So
there was more big business for you to discover.
It just kept giving. Yeah. It was really special. And even now, like I can remember when I watch it without the interruptions.
Yeah.
Of the weather reports and commercials, I'd be like, oh, this is where they took a commercial break. Like I still remember those little moments. It was very sweet.
Guys, if you want to watch Big Biz, it's a Disney Plus option.
Oh, It's great.
You can find Big Business right now on Disney Plus. I know because I've watched it recently on Disney Plus.
It's
when
so
I went
great.
searching around for it to watch, it was like, it's time to watch Big Business again.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, this is right here. This is in the Disney Vault.
Yes.
The Ratliffs and the Shelton girls are Disney princesses. You're telling me?
Oh, I never even thought about that. I love it. I love that.
So wait, then, if you were a country Sadie yearning to get out into the big city, what would your read on Big City Sadie?
Oh, I wanted to be her so bad. I wanted to get off the elevator with the big hat, and all of my employees are there, and they're scared of me. And I'm going to walk down the aisle and be like, "Where's the report? How much money do I have now?"
Good morning, Michelle.
Appreciation schedule on my desk by 5. Stuart, you know, when I ask for demographics, I expect you to include all age groups.
Children 7 to 13 don't purchase stocks, Miss Shelton.
I did.
Miss Shelton,
Is this how we dress for the office? You look like a blood clot.
Everything's ready for the board meeting.
Flow charts. Profit pyramid.
I hope you'll be pleased. We were here until...
What's going on in research? More money for more lab rats?
Some of our new products seem to create adverse reactions.
Get tougher rats.
I just, showing up at the plaza, every time I go to New York, I still like walk by and I'm kind of like, oh.
You know what? I feel like that really, the plaza, I feel like was such a part of, because it sounds like we're around that, like, I'm a later millennial, I'm 38, so we're around that, like, millennial Gen X, like, cusp line together. And it is crazy how much the plaza was a thing in my consciousness. Like, if it was a hotel in New York, and for some reason it was a hotel in New York for a movie that felt like it could be for children, the plaza had to be a part of it. I don't know if there was another hotel in New York, but there was the plaza.
They had a good marketing team, or they just said yes to every movie. I don't know. Maybe they needed the money. Who knows? But yeah, there's something about it that's like rich and cool and magical. And I mean, the actual Big Business movie, I think the interior of the plaza was shot on a stage, so it wasn't the real thing. And so when I go there now, I'm a little bit like, hey, where's that red sofa?
Yeah.
But still, it's special. It's special.
I loved this movie so much growing up, and I still think of Lily Tomlin rattling her bracelets antagonistically at people when they challenge her, like country Lily Tomlin. I think this is one of the great comedies. Yes. I think this is one of the great comedies, period. I have a story about that. I was in LA, I was talking to a friend on the phone, I was walking to therapy, and out of a building that my therapist is in walks Lily Tomlin. Oh my God. I'm new to LA, we're in Beverly Hills. I just hang up on my friend immediately. I don't say another word to her. And I say to Lily Tomlin, "Oh my God, I'm sorry to bother you. I just want to say, like, I'm a huge fan. I loved you in Big Business." Yeah. And she looks at me and she does her little wrist shake. No, she did it! Snake bite thing. Yeah. And that was it. It was just like the most perfect. Oh my God. It was so sweet. So what a class act. What a star. She was so sweet to say hi to me like that.
Obviously, you're still upset.
You can't outsnake me.
When did you start making characters of your own? When did that become a part of your life? Like, you were going into this nonfiction career with journalism, but when did the imagination start working to create characters of your own? So when I moved to LA, I was surrounded by the LA thing. So everyone was acting, and this was in 2005 that I moved out to LA. And I am so jealous that you were in LA for the aughts. The last era before the camera phone, you were in LA. I was so lucky. I found an affordable apartment on Fairfax and Sunset. So it was right there. Perfect. Yeah. And perfect. At night, I would be depressed, about journalism. I have no career. I've made mistakes. Yes. And so I'd put on my hoodie and I'd go walking on Sunset Boulevard and like walk by Hyde. Remember when Hyde and Paris Hilton? Oh my God, I remember reading about Hyde. Yeah. The thing I've said to so many people is that I feel like when you arrive in LA, if you are adjacent even to the entertainment industry, you arrive at a fork in the road at a certain point, which is you learn too much and you have to run screaming in the opposite direction. or you learn enough to where you're like, oh, it's going to be me, isn't it? And then you have to go down that path. Oh. And I feel like, again, if you're just like, if you're in media and there's just like something that puts you adjacent, then you're like, you're going to have a time where you're going to make that decision whether you're going to join in or not.
Yep. Well, I remember saying to a buddy of mine, I was so miserable with my news job, and I was working overnights, which made it worse. Oof. So I would get to work at midnight and type, for the teleprompter and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so there I was in some ways like servicing this anchor person and letting them live their dream. And really that used to be my dream. And so it was all kind of terrible. Yeah. And a buddy of mine, Glenn, I said, well, maybe I should go back to school. Maybe I could be a therapist. And that's my other passion. And he was like, well, then you'd just be a therapist who wanted to be creative. Yeah. And I thought, And YouTube was just starting at the time, and this thing, Lonely Girl 15, was just blowing up.
Oh my God! I worked at Wired around the era when we did we did a whole cover story. I remember walking to the office and seeing the big cover treatment hanging above the reception desk of Lonely Girl 15.
Lonely Girl 15.
Parallel lives continue.
I love it. That was this thing where people sort of weren't sure if this was a real person or if it was scripted, and it became a phenomenon. It was like one of the first YouTube celebrity things. Yeah. And then it became clear that it was a show, and they were casting. And so I had auditions. I signed up to go audition for that. And they kind of wanted you to create your own character. So I was kind of just like this nerdy guy. Interesting. And I didn't get it, but I thought, I can do this. I think I can. And so that's kind of how I started. And I started this little web series about this guy with a birthmark on his face called Herpes Boy. And then it did kind of good. It got like tens of thousands of views on different platforms. And then a producer saw it, and he's a director too. And he was like, can we make it a movie? And that was it. Wow. Yeah. Crazy, right?
That's truly that's a very Hollywood way to be folded in. I just made something, and then a producer reached out and was like, do you want to make a movie, kiddo?
Well, the behind the scenes hell of it all was, so I still worked my job in the middle of the night. So I would work in the middle of the night, be exhausted, and then go try to shoot this movie. I was getting paid real money. Because that was a real job. These were WGA, writers. We were all in the WGA because of the news thing. And so I made great money, and so I pumped all that money into this movie. I maxed out credit cards.
Here it is. There it is.
Yeah. It was that kind of thing where I was like, I'm so unhappy, but I have to try this before I just give up. I have to go all in, and that's what happened.
And so when you were a young boy seeing Sadie Ratliff in Jupiter Hollow, was it a situation where, because you're grafting yourself onto this the most sort of a camp category of female character, which is a Bette Midler character. Right. Bette Midler is a performance of gender. Yes. And so when you're watching this and you're young and you're in rural Louisiana, how is the climate and culture around you greeting you as this person who knows that they're not quite in the right place and that they are going to find their way out into other bigger contexts? Was it things were actually okay when I was a kid, or was it kind of fucking sucked actually, and I was really ready to go?
Well, I think my childhood looked great on paper. So, my parents got divorced, and it was a very messy, awful divorce, but I still had a roof over my head and all that stuff. And I got really involved in church stuff. So I was president of our youth group, and I was kind of a tyrant.
You were Sadie Shelton.
I was Sadie Shelton of the church. Yeah. So that gave me a sense of community and a sense of purpose. Mm-hmm. But I just always felt like I didn't belong there. I wanted something more. I wanted something bigger. And then, of course, the gay thing. I knew I was gay, but I thought it was just the devil. That was kind of the devil telling me to be attracted to these guys, and why am I not attracted to women, and blah, blah, blah. And high school was kind of awful for that reason. And didn't know any other gay people. And, so it was just kind of a those things were challenging. And
was it a situation of years later, folks from high school, was it you too? Did sort of Facebook truths emerge who all the secret queers were that you were growing up around?
Okay, so the biggest, craziest thing is I had this best friend, Chad, and in junior high, and I switched to a different high school, so I wasn't at the same high school as Chad, but in junior high and in middle school, Chad was just my best friend. I loved this guy. Yeah. And then we lost touch for years and years, and I was very scared to reconnect because I didn't want to be like, now I'm out and I'm gay, and then have to kind of go through that whole thing again and possible rejection. Anyway, long story short, Chad's gay.
Congratulations to you both.
Yeah. And it's just, it really is sort of shocking. It is sort of like, so I'm talking to Chad about it. I'm like, oh my God, like, what do you make of this? Do you know the universe and we found each other and and he's like,
yeah.
It's like, I'm the only one who cares. Like,
the two genders of gay right there. Just like, okay, fine. Yeah, I moved to LA, I guess, and I thought I might be a therapist for a minute. So, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. So I can't say that at the time I thought it was so horrible. But I couldn't wait to get out of there. And I really did feel like when Sadie Ratliff found out she was going to New York and she was so excited, like that was my vibe. I was like, I understand that.
Leave town? Go to New York City?
It's a dangerous, dirty, low-down place, Sadie.
I know. Oh my God, what'll I wear? I gotta get my hair cut. Oh, this is just the sense of purpose I need. I gotta get me some of those press-on nails. Do those things stay up? I wouldn't want them flopping off in any of those fancy nightclubs.
Listen, nightclubs, this is business. Now you get a grip on yourself.
We're going to New York City. We're going to New York City.
Did you, like me and also my mom, and I have to assume anybody who watched this movie, also have a crush on Fred Ward in this movie? The most... a wonderful himbo maybe to ever exist on screen. Fred Ward as as Lily, her sister.
Rose,
Fred Ward plays her boyfriend.
Yep.
And he is the most adorable, like, hayseed country bumpkin guy. And he knows, like, his girl's going off to the big city to, like, try and keep this massive conglomerate owned by the big city twins from shutting down the factory in Jupiter Hollow. And when he goes to the big city to support his lady, I am just like, and the two, this was honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, Big Business and Mannequin are probably my two of my earliest clocking of gay characters on screen.
Interesting.
With like those, like the assistants to like those corporate like higher ups to who are just fawning over Sadie Shelton.
Yeah.
I remember like just knowing what I was supposed to know about them, that the movie was like giving you but veiling for you.
Yeah.
Like I remember recognizing them, being like, I know something about you guys and I'm a tiny kid right now.
Oh, that's really special. I remember Rune.
And that's not nearly as gay as anything Bette Midler, but yeah.
Still. Well, you know who I was into is the young, the blonde gay guy, the blonde gay assistant. He was also in Drop Dead Fred, and I wish I knew his name, but I can't, I don't know it. But I wanted to be him, and it was so like I remember the whole scene where he was wearing this kimono, and
the kimono, yes.
Rune was like, "Oh, where'd you get that kimono?" And he's like,
You get that in Nam?
No, Fire Island.
Huh. Well, let's all have a drinky, shall...
No, I think it's time for Betty Bye.
Don't tell me you two guys are sleeping in the same bed together.
Yes.
Gee, I feel awful about that. Now, if you want, one of you can take the couch, and I'll share the bed.
Oh, that's very generous of you, but we wouldn't hear of it.
You guys are all right.
And like, I didn't know what Fire Island was. I didn't understand. All that went over my head. But then in the morning, they all woke up and they're trying to, where are we going to find these Ratliff people? And the little blonde guy is naked in bed and gets out of bed, and he's got just covering himself with the newspaper, and like, that was pornography. So my heart was kind of with that guy.
No, that completely makes sense. That was Daniel Garrell, and then his sort of counterpart was Graham Sherborne, played by Edward Herrmann.
Yep.
And then, of course, Fred Ward playing the lovable Rune Dimmick.
Rune.
Good old Rune.
Yeah. What a cast.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll hear more about big business and about the business of Byron's new book, Big Gay Wedding. Then I will have one quick thing about the official trailer releasing for Give Me an A, the anthology film I produced last year. So we're going to do a little self-promotion at the end. Stick around for that, you guys.
Greatest Trek is the podcast for all your modern Star Trek needs. It's funny, informative, and now it's also timely.
That's because every Friday, right after the release of a new episode of Strange New Worlds, Picard, Lower Decks, Discovery, or Prodigy, we bring you a review of that episode.
There's some great new Star Trek coming up, and we're going to cover all of it.
You'll like our show because we're both former video producers, so we bring a lot of insight into the production and filmmaking aspects to these episodes.
And we also have a very refined sense of humor, so we make lots of delightful fart jokes along the way.
So come see why Greatest Trek is one of the most popular television recap podcasts on all of the internet.
Subscribe to Greatest Trek at MaximumFun.org or in the podcast app you're using right now.
Hey there, this is Drea Clark.
This is Alonzo Duralde.
And this is Sparta!
Iffy.
Listen, I got 300 on the brain. We just watched the movie 300 in honor of our 300th episode of Maximum Film.
That's right. And to celebrate this major milestone, we brought back original co-hosts Ricky Carmona and April Wolf.
But just for this one episode, right?
Oh, Iffy, you know we could never replace you.
Some of the voices have changed over the years. Heck, the name of the show has changed too. But through it all, Maximum Film remains
the movie podcast that isn't just a bunch of straight white guys. Deal with it.
Find this and all 300 episodes of Maximum Film anytime on MaximumFun.org.
Welcome back to Feeling Seen. I am here with author, playwright, and filmmaker Byron Lane, and we are talking about a movie close to both of our hearts. If you weren't here for the beginning part of the show, guess what it is? It's 1988's Big Business, starring many Bette Midlers and Lily Tomlins. Let's jump back into it. Now, did you as a child delight as much as I did in the moment where the twins really discover each other in that like salon powder room?
Yes.
That begins I feel like one of the great moments of physical comedy of all time.
That's right. And a little bit of a kickoff of like technology. Like, you know what I mean?
They're clones. What a cheap trick. It's on, people! I saw that movie. I was at the premiere. Get back. Get back!
There is no such thing as pod people, is there?
You're not my sister.
And you're not my sister.
Thank God. Don't touch me, I say. Whoa. Ghastly.
Are they real?
They're robots. They want to kill us and take our places. Oh, you've seen too many movies.
You get back. You just get bashed.
We must be in some kind of... Now, there's got to be an explanation for this.
That is the dumbest damn thing I've Please don't shout at
Oh,
them.
You're such a hick. There's UFO written all over this thing.
They're probably relatives.
Relatives?
Me that
How can they be? Listen to them. They're imbeciles.
Like this was the Jurassic Park of its day, you know.
It still looks good.
Yes,
it still looks good.
Really
honestly,
looks great. Yep. I lived for the restaurant scene where they're sort of passing each other and they're with the wrong sister, but they don't know it. And then there's a whole bit about the fancy dress, you know, and the polka dots. And
so, what do you think,
Sadie? I am so upset about this Holomate sale. I don't know what to think.
What are you worried about that for? We're gonna march in there. We're gonna set things right.
Set things right?
Right. Come on, let's go.
I knew I could count on you.
Keep the change.
And it really holds up. That movie is still really special.
It is still really. I was on the podcast Screen Drafts. This episode is dedicated to you, Drea Clark. I was on the podcast Screen Drafts, and it was the theme was like you create a best of list within the category you're given, and the category was mistaken identity movies. And believe me, the surprise that rang out in that room when I posited that Big Business was one of the. You know what I didn't play like fucking North by Northwest or anything like that. I was like, big business.
That's right. Yes.
Because there are so many mistaken identities in big business.
Yeah.
And they carry it off so geniusly. You can't tell me this isn't one of the great mistaken identity movies of all time. There are like at least 5 identities being mistaken at any given time.
Yes.
They even think Rune is someone that he's not.
Yes. And the bit with the homeless guy at the end, like it really is just, it is so well done. It's so well done.
It is so well done. And it shows and doesn't tell.
Yes.
Its mistaken identity bit throughout the entire movie. Like you said, that restaurant scene where they're just like passing each other in and out and back and forth. Like, obviously, like, it's scenes and it's setups and it's cut and it's like, let's get this. But you watch it and it's almost like, it almost feels like a one shot. It's so kind of stressful in the moment of like, are they going to figure it out?
Yeah.
Are they going to pass each other by?
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Now, if you were identifying with the Bette Midler character when you were very young, was Bette Midler among a sort of host of divas who was sort of like a gateway for you in your accessing characters? I wanted to hear about your process of grafting yourself into fiction and where you sort of most frequently found echoes that were similar to like what you felt with Big Business.
Definitely. Since I had that little encounter on the street with Lily Tomlin, I wish I could say, and in some ways it makes for a better like narrative to be like, and then I met her, but it really was the Bette character that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so there was something to like this strong human being who knew what she wanted, who should have been marginalized, but refused.
Yeah.
And that did carry on in my life.
I mean, you've made Tilda Swinton looks an old Craigslist. I mean, I feel like Tilda Swinton is a modern day sort of diva.
Yeah.
In her very, alien, like human adjacent kind of way, 100%. But one of those bigger than life figures.
Yes.
Post-human.
Yes, and I've always been drawn to that, and I wish I could be more like that. I mean, I'm kind of a little bit crazy as it is, but I wish I could be even more just like no filter kind of life. Whitney Houston was a big one, so The Bodyguard was a big deal for me.
God,
and,
wow, yeah.
Yep, and I spent a lot of time just wishing I could be like Whitney's character in that, Rachel Marin, like a person who just really owned the space around them, and I never really felt like I did.
Mm-hmm. How is that now? What does seeking to own the space mean to you now compared to perhaps how you saw it as an aspirational thing when you were younger?
Yeah, it's it's such a great question. I think now that the space doesn't belong to me or anyone.
Okay,
and so it's a different kind of desire. And sometimes I wonder if that just comes from age or comes from like realizing that like I'm never going to be Leonardo DiCaprio and then just, settling into what is meaningful in life. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel now. The space doesn't belong to me or anyone else. So if when I do feel like encroached upon, even though I wish I could summon my inner Bette or my inner Rachel Marin, Whitney's character, that I could lash out. But anyway, now I just feel like I can do all that with civility. Hopefully, it's not as important to me if I win or lose some of those things.
How do you find that you react to people who do wish to aggressively take up the space? Because I feel like that's a real learning curve of getting into sort of film and TV realm, is you meet a lot of people who not only want to take up space, they want to do it like either like aggressively or fully violently or just in prickish and rude ways. How does your relationship exist now with that Sadie Shelton kind of figure who's like, get the fuck out of my way, you are my underlings, you are my peons? Like, how do those people interact with you like in your interior now?
Gosh. Well, the easiest way to handle that is through email. If I can delay an in-person conflict with email or texting, that's my favorite. And TikTok has a whole like series of like how to say things in like corporate speak. So like,
really, do you find that, are they helpful? Are they like, they actually helpful?
They're helpful in a way. To me, it's a little bit like self-help in reframing. So like in the self-help world, instead of maybe being like, I'm ugly, the reframing in self-help would be like, it's possible to be ugly. Like, is that even possible? You know, and so like, so in the business world, it's like, how do you tell someone to, do I need to be at this meeting? And then on TikTok, they'll suggest like saying, oh, hey, I just wanted to check in on my contribution. Like, is my contribution, what contribution are you expecting from me? Like kind of like a very like, and some of them are like really go out there. Like, so lawyers speak about whatever.
Oh God.
Anyway, so my first tip for conflict with all that is to just try to avoid it on email or to just be firm.
Just avoid it on email.
It's so much easier on email to be like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Like recently someone was asking me to do some interview and they were asking me to sign some weird thing that I hadn't seen before. And so I was like, hey, you lost me at this exclusivity thing. Sorry about that. Take care.
I'm bumping up against this.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. In real life, one tip that I use, and I tried it, my sweet mother who lives in Louisiana, I try to get her to use this too, is, and it's so simple, is let me think about it.
You know what these all sound like? This is what East Coast people tell me West Coast people sound like.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because on the East Coast, they're just like, no.
West Coastification of conflict language.
Again, can't we be Sadie Shelton and just be like, no, it's not for me. And instead, I'm like, let me think about that. Let me get back to you. I don't know.
Well, then like in the Lily Tomlin twins, we have both characters. Like, one's obviously in the big city. She longs to be in the country. She knows that like she knows she's a country mouse. She's not a city mouse. And then, you know, it's sort of the divide of can you exist in two places at one time? Also, like once the secret's out and they kind of all end up where they're supposed to be, what do you find is your relationship with your Jupiter Hollow? Like, how is the going home part for you when you got out and became the city mouse that you always knew you were supposed to be?
Oh, I love being a city mouse. You know, Jordan, sometimes it's really sad.
Okay.
It's really sad. Like when I go back home, I find it to be kind of sad. And that's kind of how I look at it. And even in the movie in Jupiter Hollow, I'm like, ooh, this looks kind of sad. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's not. I don't say it with judgment. I guess maybe a better way to say it is it's just not right for me. Like it's not my world. And but the people there are always so lovely. I'm going for a couple extended times to take care of my mom and. Those experiences are sometimes shocking in that people can be so kind and lovely and full of light, and versus coldness that you get in other places.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it just feels not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A heavy heart kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like you are able to bring yourself home, or do you bring a version of yourself home?
I really do bring a version of myself, I think.
For sure.
Like one little tiny thing is in LA, and maybe this is a gay thing. I don't know. I feel bad saying it.
No, we are here. We are queer.
Yes. You walk around and you're like, the checking people out thing is just like everyone is checking everyone out. It's constant. It's constant. And when I'm back in Louisiana, I have to like remind myself like, oh my God, Byron, you have to rein this in. These people are not, this is not the place for that.
I find that because when I'm back home, like I love getting to go home. I'm very privileged that I get to love going back home. I'm from a small town in Oregon, like 30 minutes south of Portland. So close to our big city.
Yep.
And I still have a great like connection to my hometown. But I am, it's interesting because like I am fully myself, but like being queer is such a part of my life here in LA. Like most of my friends are queer. We're talking about queerness all the time, or just like we are existing as queer people in the specific way that puts your lenses on the world and talking about anything you encounter, like you're encountering it is gay culture, like because you are experiencing it. And it's so, and I noticed a couple years ago that I just like, it's not like I don't avoid talking about anything, but I just, by default, don't talk about so many things. Where, like, my friends would come with me and they would totally recognize me. I'd be the same person. But, like, if my queer friends came with me from LA and we sat and having conversations around my family, it'd be like, is this what you talk about down in LA? Like, because there's such a chasm between just the vernacular that it's like, listen, this would just take so much for me to even get us on the same page about how to talk about stuff that I just frankly don't want to start trying to show you. So we're good. It's cool. We're good. But then I remember when I saw like a rainbow flag hanging in like my sister's small town that she lives in near where we grew up, like a queer flag hanging on a house across the street. And I wanted to like go knock on their door and be like, hey, thanks.
Yes, I feel the same way. Thank you. Or if I see a gay couple holding hands, I'm like, you are doing your part. I want to roll down the window as I drive by and be like, yeah. You know?
You're not doing activism right now, but also you kind of are. So, like, thank you.
Do you dress a little different?
No, I've always dressed like a generally androgynous middle school boy. Just jeans and t-shirts. This Taylor Swift shirt that I'm wearing right now, that goes with me anywhere.
Yes, I love it.
The jeans and the t-shirts have just gotten more expensive over time. That's the only difference.
Got it. I love it.
Is your uniform different when you go back home? Do you put on your Jupiter Hollow clothes and leave your Sadie Shelton dresses at home?
Yeah, I do try to be a little less stylish.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, let me not wear scarves. I'm not going to bring this brooch. You know what I mean? I am mindful of it.
I'm not going to bring this brooch.
I'm mindful of it, yeah.
Where did you get that?
Milan.
Well, it's awful.
Excuse me. I'm being criticized by a grown woman wearing a bib.
I feel like there is a degree of sort of creative genius that has to be bred within marginalized folks. And folks who are underrepresented in screen fiction, because we have to find ourselves in places where we don't exist or outright not allowed to exist. So we have to create for us, like we have to project images into places where we are not. And I wanted to hear from you as somebody who creates fiction about that process of building yourself into stories, perhaps where in your formative years, you were having to do the same thing just because what you were handed didn't give you an option to see you.
Yeah, that's really important to me.
Your book is called Big Gay Wedding.
Big Gay Wedding. Well, yeah, Big Gay Wedding is a great example. I wanted to write a book with a gay character who felt like me. And that means that he is not like a crazy sidekick. He is not able to be squeezed into one cruel stereotype. You know, he has a texture, you know. So that's, and his name is Barnett, and his mom already knows that he's gay, and he is coming home with some big news, and she thinks the big news is that he's coming home to take care of her farm. She runs this rescue ranch for misfit animals in rural Louisiana, but instead he's coming home to say, hey, I met someone. He's really special. We want to get married here on the farm. And she has to deal with that in a town that basically, like, they don't want blacktop roads. Like, this is a no progress kind of town. And
a land that time forgot.
Yes. So Barnett is actually, you know, his story arc is navigating his mother's feelings and still wanting to have this gay wedding. But the big arc is really the mother, who sort of has to have her own coming out experience as loving her gay son and supporting this gay wedding, even though she might not be yet 100% comfortable with it. She's having to come out as a sort of advocate, come out as a, in some ways, an activist in this town, and break ground, break the ceiling on having a gay wedding in the town. And so, yeah, I do try to bring the spirit of my own experiences to the work, and I hope I did that in Big Gay Wedding with all these quirky Louisiana people. And this Barnett lives in LA, so it's a little bit of like reverse big business. Here he is coming from the big city to try to change the little town.
Well, and I have a friend who's a screenwriter, and she's a trans woman. She's married to a woman. And they're both from, I think they're both from South Dakota. I don't think it's both the Dakotas. I think they're both from South Dakota. And she has talked about, like, she sets her stories in South Dakota. And she's a trans woman. And she gets feedback of, the notion of like, we really want stories for like middle America, And she's like, it's literally in middle America though. Like, I'm trans. I'm from South Dakota. So I'm telling you a story that actually exists because I'm the story. Yeah. And if I'm the story, I am other stories as well. Yeah. So this, like, I appreciate the bringing in of the hometown and that, because it's like, no, this isn't like, I didn't decide to make up a fantasy.
Right.
Like, I decided to incorporate the story of someone like me who came from someplace like this, that is like, comes in as like, that exists sort of as this stand-in, like the flyover America. Like, where it's like, no, but we want to like give stories to the heartland. It's like, I am a story of the fucking heartland.
That's right. That's
where I'm from.
That is really, I'm glad you mentioned this, because that is something I'm experiencing and going through right now as Big Gay Wedding, ends up in people's hands.
Yeah.
And some reviewers, it's the usual stuff. Like, oh, I love it. So funny. And then they're always like, and some of it was hard for them to read. And it's always incidents of bigotry, or like a parent who is resistant to embrace their kid's sexuality. And for me, that was all very normal. And, there's a vibe of like, so Barnett's partner is Ezra. And so when Ezra comes to town, he notices some like microaggressions, and he's like,
sure.
Wow, interesting microaggressions. And Barnett's like, oh, that's just normal. You kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is interesting when I'm glad I can bring a story to the page and to readers that I think shows kind of like, this is kind of how it was. This is kind of how it is.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Sadie Shelton can go to Jupiter Hollow, and it might be a little bit shocking, but she's got to see how Sadie Ratliff lived.
That's right. Yes. Maybe they should be doing a sequel.
Sadie Ratliff came from this place.
That's right.
Well, I think that brings us down to the end of our time. I could talk about big business with you for so long.
Or life. I really do. I love the parallels we have. I'm excited to have connected with you. It's all meant to be.
And so give me the date that Big Gay Wedding is out.
Tuesday, May 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's anywhere that books are sold. And it's also an ebook, and it's an audiobook read by actor Noah Galvin from The Good Doctor.
Oh, how wonderful.
The Real O'Neills, and he was on Broadway.
Congratulations to Noah Galvin and Ben Platt. We wish you every happiness.
Yes, we wish you every happiness on your Big Gay Wedding.
Yes, exactly.
Hope it's grand and lovely. Yeah. I just got to hear a little bit of Noah's narration, and it's so great.
Well, congratulations on it coming out. Congratulations on being out. Congratulations on Noah Galvin and the audiobook. And thank you so much for taking the time today, Byron. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jordan, and thanks to Marissa. I'm so grateful.
Thank you again to Byron Lane. We recorded this just before Big Gay Wedding hit bookstores, but it is out now, so you don't have to wait to pick up a copy of your own or of that audiobook. And if you haven't seen Big Business, it's right there for you, hiding in plain sight. Easy to mistake an identity, miss it on Disney+. And if you want more books, actually, by Feeling Seen alum, this is a great time to remind you that Unlikable Female Characters, Anna Bogutskaya's book, is available for purchase now. And so is Kyle Turner's book, The Queer Film Guide, 100 Great Movies That Tell LGBTQIA+ Stories. So get out there. There is so much summer reading for you to do, courtesy of wonderful, thought-provoking guests on the show. And then my one quick thing is about me. It's about me and the so many others, producers, writers, directors, actors, filmmakers, incredible filmmakers that came together to make the anthology feature Give Me N.A., which I worked as a producer on last summer. We shot 17 shorts in 10 days at the end of July, beginning of August. Indefatigable executive producer Natasha Holloway and producer, post-production wizard Stephanie Williams pulled that thing across the finish line and got it into film festival shape by September, where it started playing at festivals like Fantastic Fest, and has since moved on to things like Brooklyn Horror Film Quest. It's been racking up really cool accolades and good reviews along the way. And guess what? I mentioned it on this show before. You have wondered, you have anticipated hotly, when can this get in front of my own eyes? The answer is June 29th on VOD. It is coming to VOD on June 29th, and there are actually select theatrical engagements too. Los Angelinos that very day, June 29th, at the Arrow. I believe it's a one-night only special. You Give Me an A will be playing. There are dates also in Chicago, Austin, Texas, I believe. I'm sorry, I don't have the complete list for you right in front of me. But each of those theatrical engagements, all of the proceeds, 100% of them will go to women's health care and abortion access funds. 100% from each of those screenings. So go see the movie. It's really good, and also support good causes. We need your help, and also support independent cinema by renting that fucking thing on demand. If you've ever loved me, it is your obligation to purchase if you can. Give Me an A, coming to you from XYZ Films. And you can trust it because XYZ makes a lot of good shit. And they swooped us up and now they're putting us out into the world. So watch it, live it, learn it, love it, as Courtney Shane would tell you. And that is our show. You can follow us on Twitter at FeelingScenePod or send us an email at feelingscene@maximumfun.org. If you want to follow me, I'm Jor Crew on Twitter. That's JORCRU, where I am posting the trailer to Give Me an A and details about where you can see it in like a handful of cities, so you should check that out. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. The show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.